Hi everybody, this week's episode is with the lovely Ash Tanya. Unfortunately, this genius forgot their SD card and recorded it on their phone, me on my phone, and for some reason the file just disappeared. So that's fun. So unfortunately, this week's episode isn't going to have us in it. So I'm going to overlay it with some animal B-roll. So yeah, sorry about that. You're going to miss out on the lovely Ash's face. Sorry about that. But hope you enjoy nonetheless. Welcome to Grazing Hell, the one and only podcast made by a cow. And I've got a lovely guest today, and that is Ash Tanya.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, whoop, 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 whoop. We are here, we are recording, and it's been very smooth. We've not had any hiccups along the way. You know, no trains have been cancelled. No one's forgotten their SD card, so she has to record it on her phone. You know, it's all gone very smooth. We're good. Exactly.
Yeah, no hiccups whatsoever. Made it here completely on time.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. How are you, Tara?
I'm good. I'm actually really good. You know what happened on the way here, which is the first time this has ever happened?
Yeah.
I got recognised.
No!
A subscription said hello. She went,
my God!
Hey, are you a YouTuber? And I went, yeah. And she went, you're Tara Mooney. I watch your videos, da da da. And I was like, oh my God. So shout out to Kaylee. And I think your boyfriend was called Mark. She introduced me to her boyfriend. So yeah, it was really cool.
You're part of the family now.
I know, exactly. And it was so sweet, but it hadn't happened before. So I was like, oh my God, someone... Okay.
You're going to have to travel around with a pen now, autograph,
yeah.
just sign copies of your headshots.
Yeah, it was really, it was lovely, but it was also really disorientating because I was just like, that's never happened, and I just assumed it wouldn't because like YouTube isn't, you know, we're not real. We're not real media
it's
people.
Just for the screen. It's like you shut off your phone, shut off your laptop, and it's done, and it's over, and it's never to be seen again.
Exactly.
But no, that sounds so cool.
So that was great. So when I first saw you, I was really like flustered by that. I was like, oh, that just happened. I was like, oh gosh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, better not get too big for my boots. No, let's be honest, it's all the cow. But for the listeners, in case they're not familiar with you, and the watchers, sorry, I keep forgetting, I am recording on my phone. Yeah. Do you want to tell them about what you do, who you are? Yeah, tell us about your work.
All right, so my name is Ash. I make YouTube videos for the YouTube and the internet. And I mostly focus on fashion videos, social commentary, sometimes social media commentary. I just graduated uni, studied geography and geology, and that's about as good a synopsis as I can come up with, to be fair. So
yeah. So actually, I feel like a good starting point will be, tell us about your latest video, because I just watched it last night and it was very interesting. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so my last video was analysing the Black women in luxury movement content on social media, which for anyone unfamiliar is basically like vision board-esque posts that are like on Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter sometimes, of people posting Black women online who are like going out and doing things that are like considered luxurious, so like luxury vacations, consuming luxury products like Gucci handbags and the usual stuff. And I think my familiarity with that sort of content was starting with, I can't even remember how many months ago now, but the musician, I want to say Sweetie, posted something about her at the time boyfriend buying her a Birkin handbag, and those things can cost anywhere from like 15 grand or something, which is ridiculous. Like, wow. That's a year tuition. That's rent. That's anyway. Rich people stuff. And basically her saying, if a man isn't going to, which also very heteronormative, if a man isn't going to buy you a handbag or do whatever, then he's not, you know, basically equating.
I'm sure that's completely uncontroversial to say on the internet. I'm sure that incels wouldn't get annoyed by that.
But then basically, instead of it being interpreted as, because what I think she wanted to say is basically just a romantic partner showing some form of gesture to profess their love, and if for her that is in the form of a handbag, then fair enough.
That's a love language,
yeah,
isn't it?
people do have different love languages, but then an account which I think is a troll account was basically saying, yeah, guys, like from now on you can only go on $200 dates with your boyfriend and whatever stuff, and people are like, yes, we deserve luxury and whatever. And so I feel like these posts have now gone into that side of the internet where it's like, people want, people perceive this like luxury as the only way for people to express that they are in comfort or enjoy or whatever, which I get from a certain degree, is because for the longest time Black women have been excluded from any sense of luxury or like comfort. But then when it comes solely down to, because then it starts to seep into like hustle culture side of the internet, where we obviously know that doesn't work, because in order to hustle or to make as much money as the
unhealthy work
whatever,
patterns,
it's either unhealthy work patterns, or you're either exploiting somebody else down
MLMs.
the food chain, or you're in an MLM and you are being deluded, which is like, it's just really not good. So I think I just did that video because I wanted to, for me, unpack all this sort of, because there are parts of me that are like, and I think, like I said in the video, you'll see someone, doing this thing that's like, oh, look at, they just got a luxury vacation or whatever, and it's like, oh, good for you or whatever. But then I have to reconcile with the fact, like, for example, right now a lot of influencers are going through are being held accountable for, like, why are you going to Hawaii when Hawaiians are complaining that they are currently running out of ICU beds because of COVID, and loads of tourists bringing COVID. Why are you going to Hawaii at this time? Then when you see the pictures online, and it's just like a lovely Black woman enjoying the sun somewhere nice, and you're just like, oh, that looks cool. But then we sort of need to unpack why we like those images and stuff. So I think that's just why I wanted to talk about it. But yeah, I'm glad it's so far been received well, though, because I was kind of worried that
it had 0 dislikes when I watched it.
I was kind of worried that some troll or somebody would find it and be like, yeah. I don't think that's ever actually, because my channel is relatively small, so it's not really happened to me that much. I think the one time I've encountered trolls, and like I think a few months ago I posted on Twitter, and I was like, oh, I got my first hate comment.
It's Twitter.
I'm officially a YouTuber now. I got my first hate comment was on my video analyzing them. Is it a cute outfit, or is she just skinny? Because that video, for some reason, the algorithm was like, blew it up. I think it's up to like 80,000 views right now, and I've just like muted. Obviously, I have comments muted, but my mind has now muted that video. I do not acknowledge it, because any time I've like, when you go in the YouTube studio thing and you see like the comments on the side, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna look at that because
it's not healthy.
No. But then there were some comments on there that were kind of like, ironically, even though so for context, the video was me talking about this trend online where like a Bella Hadid or a Kendall Jenner will wear a very simple or basic looking outfit and then be called like a fashion icon or something. But if a person who was, say, plus size tried to replicate the same outfit, they would be like made fun of on the internet, or it's not going to look good on you and stuff. And
also they're just very basic outfits, which there's nothing wrong with. I dress quite basic, but like,
I mean, same, but also like fashion icon, when
it's like, chill out.
It's like,
it's just jeans and a t-shirt.
Like, and half the time what's really making the outfit look good, in air quotes for those listening, is the body. It's like that person's abs or how long their legs are or something, which is not bad. I mean, they're working hard for the body, as some for like exercising or whatever, they've paid good money for it.
Either
way, there's a lot of work put in. Good for you. But then to criticize a more like normal or standard body or even plus size body for wearing the same things, and not even criticize, it's like downright bullying most of the time. It's just obviously unfair, and I wanted to unpack that in that video. And in part of the video was me mentioning how also slight trigger warning, I guess, because we are talking about bullying and like body image and stuff. people being like, you know, like calling people fat as an insult. And even though I've unpacked why that shouldn't be a thing in the video, those are the immediate hate comments that I get in the video, to which I'm like, you're clearly not listening to what I've just said, but fair enough. Your comment is engagement.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Negative comments, you know, they're engagement. So ultimately, they're losing the game. They might, if they don't like your content, then commenting that they don't like it
is still helping.
Is yeah, exactly.
And then people liking that comment is still helping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like I would love to sort of talk more about the whole like sustainability thing online, because I think it has gotten like quote unquote trendy in the past couple of years, and I love the way you talk about it. And like you have this video which is, I can't remember the exact title, but it's something along the lines of, why is environmentalism seen as like a more womanly thing?
Yeah.
Why is caring about the environment considered like quote unquote feminine?
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us about that video?
Right. So what had inspired that video is, at the time, obviously I was still in uni at the time. I think that it's probably a year ago now, I'd say maybe. Yeah, so I was still in uni at the time. And just noticing a trend with like the modules I was picking, who was picking the modules and what kind of modules. So like very I guess practical based type modules, are very brainy, as someone would say. Like the very heavy stuff was taught by male lecturers. What was taught by men lecturers, and then the other stuff, which was more like even the module that I credit for, which was human geography, which I credit for really getting me into the side of sustainable fashion and understanding how the supply chains have come to be, was taught by a woman lecturer. And I was kind of and I think at the time, I don't remember what was going on, what I was learning about, that kind of like sparked that conversation in my head, where I was really thinking, actually, even if I think about like all the sustainability influencers I watch or look at even on Instagram, most of them are women. And I couldn't, especially with Instagram, I couldn't even think of anyone like Reels content now or TikToks or anything. I can't think of a channel that's led by a man. And I think at the time in the video I mentioned a channel, Changing Climate, which is really good and unpacks a lot of topics like economically and social and stuff. That's led by a man, is also a faceless channel. So like a faceless channel where the guy just like does voiceovers over images and stuff. And I was just trying to figure out like why it seems like women are a lot more open to, you know, share opinions that may seem like controversial, but also why it's been feminized so much. And there are so many studies on even something as simple as carrying a tote bag or carrying a paper bag to a supermarket instead of buying one. Men are more likely not to carry on because, I don't know.
No.
Fellas, is it gay to get a paper bag?
Fellas, is it gay to have a bag for life? Jesus. You know, I feel like that parallels a bit like, less so now, like there are some very famous male vegan YouTubers, but you know, the idea of men being vegetarian or vegan was sort of considered, you know, emasculating mainly by people who are not exactly worth listening to on the topic anyway. But it is interesting that caring is often seen as like a gendered thing, and it's a bummer because
I once saw someone on why am I even on Twitter?
I ask myself that every day.
I saw someone being like, oh, the reason women are more likely to become I think there was saying vegan or vegetarians is like, you guys used to be when we were out hunting and whatever, you guys used to be picking fruits or something. And it's like, you do realize for the human population to survive, you need a balanced diet. And they met after people were done doing all that. Like, everyone is having
the women were just eating berries. The lady Neanderthals or whatever they were.
We're just having little berries. And it's like, oh my god, are you okay? Because how do you even come up with that? But yeah, and I just wanted to, because even in thinking of in those modules that I was saying where like are very sustainability based and are also taught by a lot of women lecturers, the students who were most engaging in the modules were also women. And then all the heavy stuff, I guess, is also more populated by men
Yes.
in the student body and in the staff body. And it was just like a very interesting divide, which seems like it starts from early on, because if women are less likely to be in, say, an engineering or a STEM degree in general, then they're less likely to be involved in sustainable energy development and stuff. And of course,
Right.
where things are more accessible, like I think it's a lot easier to move from, say, a humanities based subject into discussing sustainable fashion, right? And then, or discussing ethical consumption, because they're quite not, what's the opposite of parallels, but there are quite similarities in like being able to engage people and communicate and administrative tasks, right? That then end up so that women can still end up in those job roles, but also more interested in those subject areas, even though it doesn't have to be that way. And I guess I was trying to unpack that frustration when I made that video. And I remember seeing the comments as well of other, which just made me even more sad, because it was other comments of other people confirming that it was like that in their courses, or they'd seen those divides even trying to talk with like their families. And I was just like,
That's
that's
really
unfortunate.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Gosh.
sometimes you'll make something, I'll make a video like that, and I want to be wrong, right? Like I want someone in the comment to post me a statistics that's saying actually men are very involved in sustainability or something, or and it be an accurate
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
statistic.
Well, that's the
But
thing.
you know, I want to be wrong, but then when you see comments of other people confirming that actually that's how it is for them as well, it's like, that's very frustrating.
It is.
Even my channel demographics, even though I'm not even sure I've ever filled in what I identify as on YouTube, but you know, in the
Right.
stats where it tells you like
Yes.
mine,
Gender.
yeah, mine, according to mine, my audience is mostly women. And
Yeah.
then it's like, if that is accurate, then is that good? I That just feels like it's confirming my hypothesis in that video that only women are mostly women are interested in this thing.
I think part of that as well, though, is if women YouTubers tend to have more women-filled audiences. Like I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but same with me. Mine's like overwhelmingly women, 80% or something. So I think there's that as well. And also because you talk about social issues as well that affect women, like you were saying with like the luxury movement with black women.
Yeah,
Like I suppose,
it just pushes it to that
yeah,
audience as well.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
I
think
guess
that's,
that makes sense.
yeah.
Because it's like, why, instead of wanting someone to see something from a bit different perspective, the algorithm is kind of like, you like this, so you're only going to get this, isn't it? Because I do think I also get very few recommendations of YouTube channels that are run by men. So yeah, maybe that's just
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Well, you actually, funnily enough, related to this, you made a video about how the algorithm has finally recently sort of delivered us black women, right?
yeah.
And I just thought that was really interesting because, I mean, maybe this is perhaps this is like just me and this is a problem with me because I think I would say like a few years ago perhaps my subscription fee was much whiter, but I think it feels like in the past year that, you know, POC creators have like sort of popped off in a way, or at least that's what the discussion is. Not saying they weren't there. I just think what I'm saying is that they're
They're a
finally
lot more
getting the
visible.
recognition they
Yeah.
deserve, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about that video and your thoughts on that topic.
Yeah, I think when I made that video, it was around the time like and I don't think it's just you, because I think I see a lot of people saying is that oh well, your algorithm reflects your taste, so if your algorithm is largely this, and part of that is true, but I do think part of it is just the algorithm pushes certain people. Like I think I only really started properly using YouTube to like watch content in late 2018, early 2019. And at the time, I guess the algorithm figured out I like commentary. I like watching people talk about things. And the main content I used to be shown was like Cody Ko, Noel Miller, that sort of thing. And then I used to just be recommended a lot of white guys who did commentary, like a lot of white guys who did commentary, which nothing wrong with it. I did enjoy the content, but and I guess because I wasn't as actively using YouTube, I didn't really mind because like I would tune in when Cody posts a video and leave.
Yeah.
But then I really started like in-depth watching YouTube content when the panoramic hit in March 2020, and then that's when I was like, oh, this is a bit weird. Okay, I want to watch something else. And then at some point a big scramble happened where I did start to get channel recommendations that looked more like, because then after the comedic side of commentary sort of like lost its, I just wasn't really that into it anymore, which, you know, everyone goes through a phase of like content they're watching. And then I got into the ethical side of like YouTube. I was shown like a lot of, I still really like her channel, like Kristen Leo, Sustainably Vegan, those sorts of channels. And it was still very white. And I just thought, is it because the topics I like are largely discussed by white people, which I would eventually discover was not true. It was just that they're like hidden and you have to like actively, I don't even remember what I was searching, but you just had to actively look for channels up until maybe I would say I think it's the beginning of this year that I made that video. All of a sudden there were even I think even white content creators, like I think Tiffany Ferg at the time was recommending a lot of POC creators. And a lot of people started this thing, especially after everything that happened with BLM. People were just like trying to push more content from a different perspective. And I guess eventually the YouTube algorithm picked up on that. So all of a sudden, I think I started seeing like Khadija Bo, Shan Spear, Amanda Mariana, so many channels, and I was just like, oh, this is great. And I waited a while before I made that video because I thought maybe it was just like a small blip. But then I started seeing other people commenting the same thing, that was happening for them, or even people getting recommendations from YouTube, not even from a person, like seeing my channel pop up in their recommendations and then being like, oh, I'm so happy so many Black women content creators are popping up in my feed. And even articles I've seen written about it don't really give a proper explanation, except maybe it could either be YouTube has finally made an equal opportunity algorithm, or they're actively trying to push more POC and Black women in particular because they realize that it's been a mistake. I mean, the content is good, so there's no reason not to.
Well, I think that's like one of the many issues with the whole YouTube algorithm thing. I think they're quite closed off and cagey about it because obviously they don't want to give it away because then everyone will just cheat the system. So I understand that, but I think that's part of it. It's like we don't know, we don't have that transparency. It's like, do you have a conscious bias? Or is it an algorithmic bias? Like, does the algorithm just prefer... Like, I saw a tweet on Twitter and it was like someone showed... It was like a photo of like a white woman with a black man, and like they posted
it crops the thing,
and it cropped the black guy out. But I'm laughing because it's so bad. Like, obviously it's terrible. It's not like...
I've seen that because I've seen it where it was like a black person with a white circle, and every time it wasn't even a person, it was just like they were holding a circle cut out, and every time the white circle cut out was like it wasn't even, and it's like which is why I think because now they've got rid of the crop.
Yeah.
So they couldn't change. They were like, we're really not going to go into
trying not to be racist. It's the robots. It's the algorithm.
So we're just going to remove the crop altogether. And I was just like, you know what? Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they did something. But
I mean, but also it's clear. It's a clear indication that there was something going on.
Wow.
To the point where they were just like, let's get rid of the crop. Let's get rid of it.
Yeah.
But or at least like with TikTok, for example, it's well known that if you have terrible lighting, which lighting is even more important if you're like a darker shade because you're going to really need. So if you have darker lighting, use certain hashtags that are, you know, usually like pro Black liberation or anything, you're automatically, and we know this, like we know the algorithm has a bias, like it's, and that they've never made it a secret. But with YouTube, they've made it so much that you can't pinpoint anything because they're just like, wait, well, we don't know either. Nobody knows.
Yeah, exactly.
So we don't know. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's your viewing choices, and which I do think is unfair, particularly for creators who are making their living on the app, because then you're like, you constantly, and then with the creator studio that you just like, you log in thinking you're going to post something, and then it's telling you, oh, your last video was the worst.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
You loser.
Yeah. You suck.
Get a job. You suck. This isn't it. This isn't it for you. Yeah. Just stop posting. Just leave. Just stop whatever you're doing. And it's like so demoralizing when you're trying to obviously make it on YouTube, because there's no blueprint. Like you can do certain things, but there's no set blueprint, is there? And it's up to fate. It's like
a lot of it is luck. It really is. Like, you know, exactly. I mean, yeah, it is bizarre, isn't it? And that's why I think it's on people to share creators that they like, and like what you're saying with Tiffany Ferg, like she's always shouting out smaller creators, which is awesome. And if you're, you know, if your feed doesn't, you know, recommend you stuff you like, you got to sort of look at people you do like and see who's commenting on their videos, because that's something I'd recommend to smaller creators. Obviously not in a spammy way, but like if you have creators you like, you know, comment on their videos, say like, I like this, and people, you know, will click on you, and that's a good way of doing it. I mean, that's how I found, you know, other creators. So it's, you know, just got to find a way to skirt around the system.
Yeah, didn't we find each other in the comment section?
I feel like it, I
feel like somehow, but I feel like I've done that quite a few times as well, where like I'll just make a genuine comment, and then someone will be like, "Oh, I found your videos because I saw your comment on, you know, wherever," and it's like, "Oh, cool," because the fact that this small creator watches similar content to what you're already watching is going to be guaranteed that they make content
they're on their way.
Gonna like.
Yeah, exactly. So on a pivot, because I just saw you posted this last night, and I think it's honestly a fascinating topic. You were saying that probably by the time this comes out, this video will be out, but you're planning to make a video on the whole idea, like this whole Molly Mae controversy.
Oh yeah. I made a post about that on my community post, didn't I? Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll be on my post, because I do have moments of just like, do I want to make it? Because again, I'm not living off this yet, so I just want to keep it as
that's fair.
I want to keep this as light as possible. So if I feel like I'm forcing myself to make something, it's not going to come out good. So I'm just
fair.
But I do really want it to be up next week. But so basically, because this was my first year watching Love Island, so I was like,
really?
Yeah, I never watched it before.
Wow, not a good season, to be honest.
No, because then I was like, what's the hype? But then even when I would talk to other people, and they'd be like, yeah, no, this has been a terrible season. This isn't you not enjoying it. This has just been a very bad season.
Yeah, exactly.
But a big sentiment I used to see, like, because I would turn on the TV to watch Love Island, but then just be reading the Love Island tweets.
Yeah,
and like
the tweets are better.
The tweets were better than the show. But then a big comment I used to see people make is like, "Oh, Kaz is such a fashion queen. She should get a deal with, you know, all the fashion brands that show Pretty Little Thing." I saw it first. All the people who sponsored the show, and like I think most of what they wear on the show is from the brand.
They usually have a partnership.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, obviously, I don't agree with the practices of most of those brands. So I'm just like, I mean, if she gets it, you know, good for her, whatever. But then it's not like a collective good as people would want it to be, which I think ties back into that first video we mentioned. Because it's like, yes, this person is enjoying whatever sort of wealth or opportunities that are usually closed off, but they're not a collective good because those brands still exploit people, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
And then it came up that Molly Mae is actually going to be the creative director of Pretty Little Thing, and she got that her initial sponsorship with them after her stint on Love Island, didn't she?
Yes, she was on it not last year, but the year before. I want to
2019?
say, yeah.
Did she win?
No, but they got. I think they were second place.
Right.
They. It's quite funny that year. Amber Rose Gill won, and the reason I specifically say her and not Amber and Greg is because Amber won. She was the solo winner. Greg came in the last week and was like, "I'll couple up with Amber," and everyone like she won because she was just an icon and is an icon.
Was it like him trying to be sneaky? And
I think
like,
so. I mean, I can't. I don't read his mind, but it didn't look good because like only a few weeks after the show ended, he cut it off, and it was a bummer because it seemed like they were genuine, or like.
I mean, within a week, least, that doesn't sound genuine, does it?
It doesn't, does it? No. And also, it's just like, Greg, you were so lucky. Yeah, but then it's like, you know what? She can do better anyway, so it's fine. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter.
but yeah, and it was like, so Molly Mae got her first deal with Pretty Little Thing, and
Creative director.
Yeah, but my familiarity with her was like, and I think I've done a video on this show as well, which was supposed to be like a documentary about Missguided, which is another fashion brand.
Yes.
Both Missguided, both Missguided, Pretty Little Thing, Boohoo are under Boohoo Incorporated. So Boohoo Incorporated is like the mothership of all these three brands, and Missguided were competing with Pretty Little Thing to actually get Molly Mae in 2019, and it's so funny. Missguided. So she took the Pretty Little Thing deal, which was 500 grand, but the Missguided deal was 350 grand and a Range Rover, but she didn't drive. She didn't have
first world problems.
She didn't have a driver's license.
I mean, I don't either. I'm not judging.
I mean, but I feel like if someone offered me a car, I would fast track my driver's test immediately. Yeah. Just like, but also it's a Range Rover. I think I would just sell it.
But then, exactly. You don't need a Range Rover.
No, but then
near London.
Yeah, but then so she declined the Missguided deal, and that's so watching that documentary, which wasn't even a documentary to be fair, because like when it was advertised, I thought it was going to be like, we're going to get into the nitty-gritties of the business. We're going to see all the back ends of what really happens, but really it was just like watching a bunch of interns in an office talk about like, you know, creating, and there was a lot of like I think a lot of people in that office actually have some body image issues of their own, and they're also working in an industry that perpetuates them. It was a whole mess basically to watch, but that's how I first learned about Molly Mae.
Gotcha.
And then hearing about her getting the creative director role now, I was like, oh, so what does that mean? Because apparently when a celebrity or an influencer has a fashion edit with a brand, so it'll be like, this is a line of Tara Mooney cow-inspired clothes. You don't actually get to pick out, most of the time the people who are putting their name forward don't actually get to pick the items. They are like pre-picked.
They don't actually have any creative input.
No,
really.
they're just like pre-picked sets, and they get I guess get to go that one or something. So one of Molly's things in like her post announcing this creative director role was saying
excuse me, sorry everybody.
Was saying I'm gonna now have like, you know, license to say like to style items and to say these type designing items and stuff like that in clothing. But because the job role name creative director is so vague, people obviously don't know what to expect from it. So like I think a sustainability influencer I follow, Venetia, I want to say, posted a tweet where she was like, I would really hope that she would take this opportunity to make the brand more sustainable or something. And I usually like her post, but when I saw that, I was kind of like skeptical, because I was like, she clearly wouldn't have that kind of power. That's like expecting someone to get a job at Amazon and like overturn the whole business model. Like, it's not going to happen with just her. And the fact that she's worked with them before, she has the same exact internet that you and I have, and she knows how the business works. If she was in disagreement, I would assume if she was in disagreement with how the business functions, she just wouldn't have worked with them.
Right.
But she has. So she has no clearly has no qualms with how they've been producing their products. For anyone unaware, for example, Boohoo in general. So, like I said, Boohoo Inc. being the mothership. It was discovered last year in the pandemic that they were still having factory workers in Leicester working during the pandemic when there were lockdown restrictions, and they weren't in any PPE, and they were being paid £2.50 an hour, where the national minimum wage is something like, I think it was
£8.
£8 if you're
Depends on
over
your
24.
age. Right. Oh, okay, gotcha. At least £7, right?
So at least, no, I think if you're 18, it was like £6.50 or something at the time. It's been raised since.
Either way,
£2 an hour was not.
It's a joke.
Anywhere near like even in Leicester, anywhere near living wage, and also at the time Leicester, had like a huge spike in COVID numbers, and also considering we didn't have that big a vaccine rollout at the time, so it was like really severe.
That is really scummy.
And that's just in the UK. Like some of their clothes are manufactured abroad, so you can imagine where they can skip worker regulations even more is probably going to be worse.
Absolutely.
And this was plastered all over the news. So if Molly Mae, who people are obviously mentioning in this case, is like a fave of theirs, who of course wouldn't do something so egregious, if she was in disagreement with that, she never would have worked with Pretty Little Things.
Exactly.
So to expect someone to all of a sudden, like when a person gets a big role like that, I don't think you can just step in and rustle feathers. Like they would just fire you. You just get sacked. So my plan with that video is to basically, like, I'm still like only halfway through researching it, but ideally I want to just have, because I try to avoid talking about an individual specifically, because usually behind an individual doing something there's like a whole,
exactly, it's not just them.
There's like a whole wider discussion. It just so happens that Molly Mae is the one who's like taking this step. But there have been like so many times where people are asking fast fashion influencers to make a change or campaign for better conditions for workers or something, which is just not realistic. Like if that's where they can't bite the hand that's feeding them, like someone said in my comments, I think it's just not feasible to expect them. The only, I think, real course of action is to maybe have their fans, who are obviously the reason why they have that source of income, to divest from following them or buying the stuff that they're advertising. But you can't.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say that's slightly counter that is, I wonder if all it's very unrealistic, that would never happen, but if all influencers if all influencers said, like, no, I'm not going to work with you unless you pay your workers fairly and use sustainable materials. Think of how much, because we're in an influencer era, they have the leverage to do that, right? If they all set that standard, the industry, a lot of like big fashion brands, they would have no choice but to change, because influencers are their capital.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you would be, and the reason I asked this is because this was like a big topic of discussion with the whole people getting annoyed with best dressed, is I do think if you proclaim, and I'm not saying she did, I'm saying in general, if you proclaim to be a sustainable influencer, you're held to such a high standard. If you slip up slightly, you're scrutinised. Whereas if you never claim to be, people sort of in defence say, oh, well, they never claimed to be a sustainable influencer. And I'm like, the climate crisis is going to affect all of us, whether you're a sustainable influencer or not, whether you are a hypocrite or not.
Yeah.
So part of me wonders, do influencers owe us sustainability? My answer would be yes, but I don't know if that's A, unrealistic, and B, a bit hypercritical. And I'm not saying perfect sustainability. I'm not saying they can't ever buy fast fashion or whatever. What I am saying is that Molly Mae could have turned down that deal, right? And I know you're saying she wouldn't have anyway, because she worked with them. She obviously doesn't really care.
Yeah.
So, but my question to you, do you think influencers owe us sustainability?
See, because when we just say influencers, people feel like, oh, you're being unfair to these people. But I think generally anyone who has influence, and not just an influencer,
I don't just mean Instagram people,
not just anyone, just owes whether it's their audience, whether it's their employees, whether it's their anyone who is under you deserves like proper treatment, and proper treatment in the form of for an influencer would be transparency, to say this product that I'm promoting to you will not give you diarrhea so you can lose weight. This product that I'm advertising to you is like legit, is produced legitimately. It does not involve exploitation of anybody. Like, everyone deserves that level of honesty from someone who they are actively supporting. But then it's also a wonder whether people care, because then some people just don't care. Some people are like, I'm fine with fast fashion. Or the common argument now is like, well, I'm poor, so I have to consume fast fashion. But then, or like the growing one where it's like I don't know if you've seen my video where I'm like, you don't need, Shein hauls where people are buying $500 worth of items. Like, a person who's buying $500 worth of items is not poor.
Exactly.
So why are you defending them? But then people are defending them because of the big capitalism. We are we're conditioned to defend the rich because we assume at some point we are also going to be rich, even though that's not how it works in terms of scale. So it's like it's such a big.
No, you're right.
It's like such a big little like ball of twine that if you try and unpick it, you're only going to end up with a long strand of issues that you have to sort of like section out to sort it. But I do think people are owed honesty. People are just owed honesty. So for someone like Molly Mae to walk into a role and say, I'm going to change things, and not say what she's going to change, and then have people assuming all these things of her, like she's going to overhaul the whole system of the business. She's just not going to do that. But when she's been asked, because I've read that she has been asked, like interviewers, BBC, whoever have asked her, what about the working conditions? What about the clothing manufacturing? Is that going to change? And she's just refused to comment. So she's obviously aware of the bad stuff, and she doesn't want to give herself bad press by, like you said, either explicitly saying she's going to be a sustainable influencer, or explicitly say, but so just by not saying anything and leaving her diehards to defend her online. Which I think a lot of influencers fall into. But yeah, like you said, like you mentioned Best Dressed, and she is like another reason why I don't want to discuss individuals specifically anymore, is because I did think way early on in my channel, I did make a video about her whole controversy, but I've since removed it because even though in the end of the video I did make like positive points on why people shouldn't be giving her as much aggro as they have.
Yeah, they were splitting hairs
because people weren't watching the video to the end. They
they never do.
They just assumed that I was going to say bad things. So I've just like, ended up with bad comments on the video and like negative engagement, and people obviously misconstruing a lot of what I was saying. So I was just like, I'm just going to take this out. I think actually what led me to taking it down was a really big video that I think got like 1 million or so views by this creator who I think compiled all the hate videos that
Holly Hargrave. She's Australian.
She left a comment on my video saying, oh, you're such a nice person. I'm glad this video ended the way it did. And then I was just like,
oh, good for her that she watched it all the way through.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, thanks. And then as soon as I saw her comment, I went and saw she had a channel. And then she'd posted that big video on Best Dress. And I was like, oh, this was potentially going to end up in a big compilation about me being part of people who are bullying. It didn't.
Oh, good.
And I was like, oh, at least you watched it to the end, because I wasn't. But then just watching that video made me realize the fact that so many people were just dogpiling on this one person.
Exactly.
Instead of discussing the issues surrounding her, which, to be honest, I think the big issues were like just a very demanding fan base.
Yes,
and I mean, high expectations.
Exactly. We could talk for hours about how I think, Ashley deserved so much better. And, exactly. Like, she did. Yeah, it was ridiculous, to be honest, some of the stuff she was being critiqued for.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. And when I say, like, owe us sustainability, I don't think any influencer owes anyone anything, because ultimately they're a human being. I guess what I would say is, if you are in a position of privilege and you have the money, and that's why when we talk about fast fashion, I would never expect someone who earns minimum wage not to buy fast fashion.
Yeah.
Like, you need clothes, you need clothes to keep yourself warm, you need something on your back in the winter. I'm not going to criticize you for where you shop. Whereas if you're someone who, you know, lives in like a swanky apartment and like earns like triple figures a year, I am going to hold you to a high standard, and I do think it's a problem.
To be honest, you should hold yourself to a higher standard.
I agree,
because you can afford, you know, good quality clothing that's going to last you decades.
Exactly.
And you're choosing to buy this throwaway material. Like, have some self-respect.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you can afford, exactly. It's like, it's if you can, you should. Whereas if you can't, I wouldn't. You're. It's out of the question. It's a moot point. Like, I would never hold you to that standard.
And also, if
unfair.
I feel like another thing that people don't factor in the can you afford discussion is time, because with like thrifting or finding vintage items, it is a time dedication. And I feel like if you are making, like you said, 6 figures a year, you have time. Like, get your assistant to do it.
Get your assistant
on...
Get a thrifting assistant.
Yeah, get a thrift... Yeah. I'm pretty sure personal shoppers are still a thing. Like,
they are.
Especially in London. I did see a place that was, like, advertising personal
That was a big thing
like...
in the big Topshop, but obviously Topshop's not a thing anymore.
Oh.
Well, it is a thing. It's on ASOS, but you know what I mean? It's not a physical shop anymore. Isn't that a bummer? Well, I was going to say, isn't that a bummer? But I mean, the CEO allegedly was like a creep. Anyway.
Oh, I'm not surprising. Not surprising, but yeah, it's not just about the finances, because like, we are all still conditioned to not really think about the labor behind items. So maybe seeing a $300 like tencel sweater is gonna like throw you off a bit, but then thrift or whatever, or do you even need a new dress for that one event that you're going to wear
hiring
once?
I love hiring. I hire stuff for my videos. It's all hired. None of it's mine.
Because I was thinking about that, like in one of you, I think it was in your royal family video, wearing this like,
I hired
that was so pretty, and I was like,
that's by a sustainable brand called Olivia Rose, the label, but that was hired. I didn't buy it.
I've seen so many adverts for clothing hires and stuff, and I was thinking about looking into how that works and stuff, because it looks like it would be a good deal, because then you get to look nice one time, and you know that item is going to be worn by other people as well.
And it's that excitement, you know, when you get a new item of clothing that you love, you get that excitement so much more. You get that adrenaline rush, because I think that's the problem with like shopping being so addictive in capitalism. You know, you buy things that you don't need. Whereas with this, it's like, okay, I am only going to wear this once, because how often am I going to wear a fucking ball gown? You know what I mean? Like, but you get that feeling and you get to feel gorgeous, but you're not, you know, adding to also waste
and just like taking up space in your
exactly.
You know? But I've also seen, it's not ThreadUp, I can't think of what, but I think it's only like an American service where you can rent clothes for a month and then send them back. But then if you decide to buy the item because you really like it, then you can get it on a discount or something, which makes perfect sense.
That's great.
I haven't really found if there's like a UK alternative to that, but I feel like stuff like that makes more sense, and it's going to make more sense going forward. But then it only works if the items you're renting are obviously of good quality, because you can't exactly share around a Shein crop top or something that's going to like... I was so heartbroken the other day. I walked into a charity shop and there was a Shein top in there, and I was like, they've infiltrated.
Yes.
They've entered the main zone.
Exactly. Because the whole point of charity shop stuff is that, you know, what it used to be is that it was like things that people had for a long time and then gave away if like, I don't know, grandma died or whatever.
Oh dear.
You know. Yeah, but like that's because they lasted so long and that was what was great about them. So yeah, Shein, get out. But and also I want to add as well, like I think this conversation gets more complicated when you talk about like size inclusivity and stuff as well. That's another thing, like sustainable brands and charity shopping is more difficult if you're plus size. So I wouldn't hold people who are plus size to the standard of that, because you gotta get what you can get. So
there are so many intersections, but then because you're usually trying to communicate the message of sustainable fashion on Twitter, where you have a character limit, or on TikTok where you have a time limit.
So you're more dogmatic.
And so you're just, and then, but by the time you don't have time to express all those nuances, so of course the comments are going to have so much ammunition to, you know, just chop you down and be like, what you're saying isn't feasible for these people, and then by the time you're like, yeah, I know, I was just trying to say, and
in general, for the people that can,
and then it's like, oh, so you're inherently excluding people who are like, people just keep
the internet,
because even where you're like, I have 40 plus videos on my channel where I've said these following points and expressed these following beliefs. You can have a look and comb through this.
Exactly.
A person who's just looked out to argue with you is not going to look at that.
Exactly.
Is not going to care about that. And is not going, even if you point them to, say, obviously you're not a content creator or anything, and you point them to articles or something, they're not going to read them because their whole thing is they've logged on to argue today.
Exactly.
Or to defend their maybe unethical or otherwise purchases and practices. So they're just out to defend themselves, basically.
And on that note, Ash, since we're closing up, do you want to tell the people where they can find you so they can argue with you or send you love? So
send
your
me
YouTube
love, please.
And Twitter.
I'm very terrible at confrontation, so I'm only
go watch her content. It's great.
But I am on YouTube at Ash Tanya. You can type that up. I'm pretty sure I'm the first person who pops up, unless my YouTube incognito has been lying to me. And I'm also on Twitter at Spinelli Ash with because I used to watch Rugrats.
Rugrats.
It's Recess. And there was a Ash Spinelli show, and then my family gave me that nickname, and then I was like, I made that my Twitter handle, and I haven't changed it. So
it's great.
There we are. So I'm also on Twitter Spinelli Ash, and I'm on Instagram as Ash Tanya, but Ash with the 2 H's and an underscore.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
It's been so lovely.
Yeah, no, thank you. This has been delightful.
Yeah.
So what I usually do with my guests is that we go bye-bye. You know, you've seen the bye-bye. So shall we do that? Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.